Welcome back to the Mission Foods Sonoma Speed Tour for Group 2. One of my favorite open wheel cars are these Formula Bs. I was just talking to the mechanic at Travis Engen. It's a 1600. You can see the 2 Weber carburetors here, twin cam Lotus engine, the same that we saw him earlier in his Lotus 23B. But look at the size of these tires. No downforce. This is all just driver class. This is a Formula B. Now we come back, Todd Strong in a vintage Titan Formula Ford. They have about 1600 displacement, but you can see they have about half the tire. That may be even a little bit generous. So this is Todd Strong here. Then we've got Oliver Ramleth in this 93 Formula Ford, another Titan, another great battle we're going to have here. Then we go back to the Formula Bs. Look at this beautiful Formula B. The Brabham of David Smoker. Then we've got ex-IndyCar driver from the 90s, Mark Smith, the number 2 car. The red number 2 looks like he's focusing or praying before he goes out. A Repco Brabham, the number 24 there, Grant Perryman. He had a great battle with us at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Then it's my honor to introduce Mark Donahue here with us in Group 2. He's got that, Brett Gann has the Sunoco special livery of the Mark Donahue winning car. Then Jim Edmonds here in the number 88, more of a modern Formula Ford. And look at the suspension. We talked about this at Laguna Seca. These cars, the suspension on these cars, they're so fragile. It's really cool to see. Then we've got Kim Madrid here back with us in this beautiful pink Crossley with the Grateful Dead sticker. It's great to have her back with us. Then Bob Hutchison in the more modern Ford. We've got 1 minute on the grid, so Tony, why don't we come back here? Let me just point out one thing. Tom Linton's car, beautiful car. We were talking about it at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. He actually has a protective wrap on this car. So pretty. But I'm going to talk to Jens. Jens, Mr. Formula Ford, you've got, what, 6 cars in this field. What is the difference between a vintage Ford like this and a more modern Ford?
It's mostly the suspension. On the older cars, it's outboard. The shocks are outboard, very short A-arms. And if you then look at the later cars, they're wider, they have side pods, and they're a pushrod car, so the suspension is inboard. Aerodynamically, that means quite a lot. One of the nice things about the SVRA, they run on a DOT tire, and that pretty much evens out the field. And you'll see really tight competition between the older cars and the newer cars.
Well, that's Jens. Jonathan, it's getting loud down here. I'm going to send it back to you.
Perfect stuff. Thank you, Ben Sissel, as he gets back underway and probably back up to our commentary booth. A nice insight there. And yes, I think the comment that I will take away from that, Scott Conway, is what the gentleman just said, which is, you know, there really isn't a lot. There's a good competition between the older cars and the newer cars, and that's what amazes me about the junior formula, as I call it. It wasn't back then, perhaps, but what we now see as Formula Ford is the fact that over the years you can take a Van Diemen from '72 and put it up against a Rolt from '95 and still be competitive.
Yeah, it's very amazing that you can. Again, the Club Fords, which are the older cars, those, if you look at them, you can kind of see the development of Formula Ford, and it's not a whole lot except for, as he was describing, aerodynamically. You've seen the rear, side view mirrors are out in the airflow in the earlier cars. Well, they decided to put, the body over those mirrors, aerodynamics. The Lola that Kim Madrid is in, that was one of the first cars that used aerodynamics and used to have that big kind of cowling that's up in the top that you can see. It helped with cooling as well. But yeah, it's very amazing that these cars, and we see the same in club racing as we see here, there are older cars out there, but they are still competitive. And again, this is a driver's series. I used to race in Formula Ford and the Lola, and it is, again, this is a lot of fun. They're skinny tires, DOT tires or racing tires, whatever you want to call them. They're skinny tires. These cars slide around a lot, much like the Trans Am cars, but they also, there are momentum cars and they're horsepower cars all in the same. There's drafting that is available not much straightaway here to draft on, but if you can stay behind a car, and you will get a draft, it will get a tow, and you'll get extra horsepower from that draft.
And we've got a real, combination of early cars and much later cars back to 1970 and 71 with the Titan MK6. We've got a Chevron B17B. And yeah, it's interesting to see. Also that Brabham BT35, a customer car built to compete both in SCCA and Formula 3. So they were always thinking in terms of, Formula 3 back in Europe perhaps, and then SCCA and Atlantic here.
Yeah, most of these cars were brought over to compete, as you say, just in the SCCA, which used to be Formula B, then became Formula Atlantic. That Chevron of Travis Engen, that was the overall winner yesterday. And yes, this is the same Travis Engen that was out there in the Audi yesterday and also out there this morning in the Lotus 23B. Very talented driver, and that Chevron, that particular one, is an updated version of an earlier Chevron. The different upgrades, the steering arms are much better, the aerodynamics are much better, the chassis was lighter, and it became a force in Formula B. But those Brabhams are out there, several different configurations of those, the BT21, BT21B, and the most recent one that's out there, I think you just said the BT35.
Here we go then, and they are 2x2 and getting ready to roar off the line here at Sonoma, and away they go, and a brilliant start by Travis Engen in the number 1 Chevron B17B, taking that red-nosed green car into the lead, but challenging him already. Todd Strong.
Todd Strong takes him into Mission Foods turn 2. What a great move by Todd Strong.
Excellent move. Not seen many people go round the inside effectively of turn 2. Everybody usually comes over to the left-hand side to take that nice wide line through there. That's the normal line, but not for Mr. Strong. Strong and ready.
Yeah, I got to give it for Travis Engen, though, because Travis Engen saw him, and I know that Todd Strong knows Travis Engen, and you don't make that pass on anybody unless you know and trust him. So it was great for Travis Engen to know that he was there and not collect both of them.
Yeah, and that's, we've been talking all weekend long, both Jonathan and Ben, about the technical aspect of this circuit. And again, you have to be inside of somebody. You have to trust that other driver, and you have to know that other driver that he will not come over on you, that you can make a pass like that.
So Todd Strong coming into Optima Batteries turn 7, the inventor of as we have another pass on Travis Engen. Now Travis Engen is on those thicker tires that might be a little bit tougher. So that's Oliver Ramleth there, Gear Ramleth's son, making that pass. So we've got 2 Fords in front of the Formula Bs, which is very, very rare. Last weekend we saw Todd Gerstenberger and Todd Strong give Travis Engen a good run for his money. I'm mentioning Todd Gerstenberger because he was a little upset with me for mentioning Kim Madrid last weekend. So Todd, there's your shot, buddy.
Well, we will be mentioning Kim, though, this weekend because she is here, and her and Brett Gann should have a good battle back in Club Ford. The Lola Lola T324, I believe it is, of the or 342 Formula Ford of Brett Gann and Kim Madrid in the Crossley 32F. Both those cars have been very close on times all through the weekend. They finished first and second yesterday. I believe Madrid getting the better of Gann yesterday.
Now look at this battle here. Travis Engen and David Smoker, the Formula Bs. Now look for Travis Engen. He's going to methodically work his way back through the Fords. I don't think this is how we're going to finish this race. So watch for him once he gets his tires coming to him. You can tell right now he's making some ground up on Oliver Ramleth right there.
And Jonathan, we were talking about the draft in Formula Fords. I believe that's how they got around Engen, was drafting through him. That Chevron making a huge hole in the air. Ramleth doing the same thing. Now the two Titans right together. One is a gold medallion. I believe that's Ramleth drafting nose to tail. And you'll see that draft working even through the turns. But Ben, you're right. It was Engen finishing on top. And Engen, I don't think, is too worried about those two Formula Fords in front of him.
Beautiful shot down through the carousel, nicely cambered through there, hence getting the name, and then opening it up again down this mini straight, and there's only mini straights here, and then into the heavy braking and potential overtaking of turn 7. And interesting, and learned a lot from the TA race yesterday about just how slippy this particular corner is. That's where Ken Thwaites went round yesterday. And it's like ice. I talked to him afterwards, and he said there's just no grip there. And he said he only touched the throttle just a little bit earlier than before, and round he went.
There is Mark Smith, ex-IndyCar racer from the 90s. Honor to have him out with us. He was with us at NOLA, was with us at Laguna Seca, and then Grant Perryman in that beautiful British racing green Brabham.
And Mark Smith, that was the driver I was telling you about in the last broadcast. the same team that takes care of Stuart Crow's car also takes care of Mark Smith's car, and it's immaculately prepared and very fast. I believe he won in PCF yesterday over Bob Hattle. The PCFs are later versions or more recent versions, if you want to think of it, Formula Fords than the Club Fords and the Formula Fords that are in SVRA.
Guys, we've got a replay here of the start, and I'll let you guys take it away, see what you see.
It looks like Todd Strong's just taking out the outside. I'm not sure if Travis was really trusting his tires. It's a cold day out there, and Todd Strong just went for it from what I see.
Nice start. Really good. Good bit of opportunism there.
Now, you know, we were talking about also the skinny tires in that Formula Ford. I would think they would have come up to temperature way before the Chevron tires, thicker tires. And again, I think you might be right, Ben. We were talking earlier about the temperature out there on the track, and if you're not sure, you know, why risk it on the opening lap? You know you're faster than that car anyway, and it'll come back to you.
Yeah, Travis Engen's one of our, and he knows that, you know, this is going to be a mini lap race, and he's going to be able to get them back if everything comes to him. But he might be having fun out there watching and following the Fords around, too.
See, Jonathan or Ben, if you can pick up, again, as this has been such a very tight, close battle all through practice and yesterday's race between Kim Madrid and Brett Gann. Gann in the Lola T342 and Madrid in the Crosley 32F. Two different types of cars in the same era, but very, very close together.
Yeah, here they are coming through Franklin Road Apparel Complex. That's Brett just ahead of, there's Kim Madrid in the pink. Great shot of her, 291 with the deadhead sticker.
And yes, that is a mohawk.
Yes. So it's great to have her here. She was feeling under the weather last weekend at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but she's back.
Cleans her brake ducts out with it at the end of the day.
And that's Jim Edmonds right behind her.
Yeah, the Crosley 32F is one of the cars that was a very big favorite of the racing schools around the country. Bob Bondurant School, Jim Russell School, they were the Crosley 32Fs at the time. And again, Gann had it all his own way last weekend, Ben, at Monterey, but he's had a tough fight with Kim Madrid here in the Sonoma International Mission Foods Sonoma Speed Tour. And again, I was telling you, Jonathan, before the broadcast, that would probably be the race to watch just because they were so close yesterday. Now, Jim Edmonds was able to get in between those two Club Fords about the middle of the race, but then both Kim and Brett getting around them, and they continue their battle with Kim winning over Brett yesterday.
So I'm not showing, I saw Bob Hatley at grid, but I'm not sure what happened because he's not showing any scoring. He hasn't done any laps yet, so that's unfortunate for Bob Hatley, all the way from Southern California racing with us, but it's not uncommon to see Bob Hatley at Watkins Glen, Indy, Mid-Ohio with us.
Yeah, he's one of the top SVRA runners in the PCF class. Usually he and Duke Waldrop go at it in the SVRA Speed Tour events, so tough break for Bob.
Look at the livery and paint job on Brett Gann's. The Sunoco Special, I love it. I love when they make tribute cars. And there's Kim Madrid and Jim Edmonds coming down the Franklin Road Apparel S's, the complex there.
Yep, 8th and 9th in the moment. There's 10. That's the number 4 of Hutchison.
I believe Gann is just in front of that trio. So again, this was a good race yesterday, and that's the only reason I was talking to you before the broadcast, Jonathan, was these would probably be cars to watch because they have been so close, and Edmonds has been right there too. Hutchison has been kind of on the fringe of those three cars.
Mark Smith getting on the brakes. You can see it moving back and forth there, coming into the hard braking zone of turn 11.
But these cars are just a lot of fun to race. They are even more fun on the tracks with longer straightaways, such as a Road America, where you can have packs of 5 or 10 cars that are drafting, and the car that comes out of the corner leading could be as far back as 7th or 8th by the time you get to the braking zone. The draft was that important. At the runoffs, my dad and I did the runoffs for 23 straight years at Road Atlanta, and the highlight in one of the feature races was Formula Ford. It was not unusual to have 50 or 60 of those Formula Fords, and Dave Wiesenhoff would usually make a last lap pass coming out of turn 11 underneath the bridge and win the championship.
And it's worldwide too. I cover the Formula Ford and the Junior Series in New Zealand a lot, both historic and modern. And you know, you look at the Formula Ford champion. I mean, right now here this weekend, Billy Fraser, 2 years ago, just was second yesterday in AF 2000. So you know, New Zealand's got a huge junior Formula scene, both historic and modern. And it's where the likes of the Scott Dixons, he was Formula Ford champion in New Zealand, come from. It's really good.
And we were talking in the Group 9 about, you know, drivers that were coming up through the ranks, and the Formula 1 champions came up through the ranks in Formula Ford. Emerson Fittipaldi was the first Formula Ford graduate to win a Formula 1 race, and he was the first Formula Ford graduate to actually win the World Championship. But
Ayrton Senna won the Formula Ford, what do you call it?
He won the British Racing Drivers Club, and on the RRDC, that I defer to you on that one there, Jonathan.
Yeah, he won the Formula Ford weekend, you know, the one they have in October every year, and that's really what wanted him to fame, and then on to Formula 3 and the British Formula 3 Championship.
Yeah, that was a great series, and this Formula Ford was offered to a couple of other constructors when they first started in Formula Fords. Ford engine was the one that went in the car, so they decided to call it, what else? Formula Ford.
Yeah, Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch, of course.
That's Alan there in that number 75.
Royale.
RP24 from 1977.
And again, you see the development of the Formula Fords. You can see some of these older ones are very quick for their day, but you can see things that, well, you know, I think that the aerodynamics could be this and this and this, but you see a car that comes through that's a little bit later in the years, and you'll see that's what they did. You know, they like they were talking to out on the grid there, Ben, you know, the inboard and outboard springs, again, the side view mirrors, the way that the side pods were done on the cars, you know, it was just trimmed up. You couldn't do that much with the engine, couldn't do that much with the tires, but the suspensions, that Lola T342 had a suspension that was so lightweight it could hardly keep on the track before they decided to upgrade it. But you can just see the development of the Formula Fords in the different years that are out there.
Yeah, and almost less sophisticated than current Formula 4. And that's the idea of these junior series, is it really is about the driver. Like you say, the engines are the same, the cars are the same. You can't mess too much. There's no wings. You know, you're basically dealing with road tires. So it's all about the driver's input.
And before Spec Miata, before Spec Racer Ford, really, the classes that were the most contested were Formula Ford and Formula V, both because there was not much you could do with the car except for aerodynamics, and it was a driver's series. Those two are still one of the most watched races at the runoffs, along with Spec Racer Ford and Spec Miata today.
Yeah. Look at the livery here of Christoph Jensen's car. I love it. It's gray on gray on gray on dark gray.
Which is unusual.
I love that, though. It really caught my attention when I saw that car last year. It's a beautiful car.
And I don't know if we have them out today, but we did yesterday. We had cars that went back as far, I believe, as the 1960s. Merlin Mark 29 was out there. We also had a Winkleman WDF1, which is imported into the United States. But the popularity of that class was so big that it came over to the U.S. from England. And once it arrived here, man, it caught on, and it is just wonderful.
Yeah, that's Tim Herbst in that red, number 17. That is a 1994 Van Diemen RF94 as they come up Mission Foods Turn 2.
Now, if you look at that car, look at the way the aerodynamics are on that car, how everything is kind of shaped and kind of made into one, kind of what the modern cars are. But if you look at, say, like a Lola, the T342, or the Crosley 32F, which was earlier, or the Winkleman or the Merlin, you'll see those things are out in the airflow.
Question. I do not know what a Winkleman WDF1 is.
Well, actually, it was known as a Palliser. It was imported from England, and the company that imported it was called Palliser. When they imported it, the only place they could find anybody that would take this car, because again, it was not really that well known, was a guy named Bob Winkleman, and that is where the name of the car comes from. It's a Winkleman WDF1. Other than that, it's just a regular basic Formula Ford. You know, the Ford Pinto, Ford Kent engine were the engines to have. Nowadays, the class is called Formula F because it has progressed where Honda has an engine for that Formula Ford, the Honda Fit engine. And so that Honda engine and the Ford engine are in there.
And there is that Merlin Mark 29 we were talking about, the 1976, Dana Larson. It's a beautiful yellow on that car. You don't see many Merlins out with this.
But we had, I think, 2 of them entered. I think this is the only one that's out there. But again, I'm just struck by the development of the Fords, and it was, obviously the driver's skill, but it was the designers. When you tell a designer says, "Yeah, I bet I can," and and they do. And again, if you line these cars up side by side, you would see the actual development of the Formula Ford from the first examples all the way up into the modern cars, or more modern cars. And Van Diemen is one of the more modern cars. Van Diemen, if you follow any of the Pro Formula series, that's the car to have now.
Sure.
But now even there, it's the McGalley Honda that is the current car to have in the Pro Series. But Van Diemen is still very prominent and it's very competitive. But back in the day, the Lola was the car to have. Yes, Ben?
Right now, I'm being proven wrong. The Formula Bs are in a tight battle for 3rd and 4th back there between Travis Engen and David Smoker. It's unbelievable, but Todd Strong staying out front with Ramleth right behind him, Oliver Ramleth in a 1970. And so Todd Strong in a 71 Titan MK6 and Ramleth in a 1970 Titan Mark 6.
This is just speculation on my part, but Travis Engen is such a smart driver. I wonder if he's saying, those 2 Formula Fords are in a battle for the overall lead and class lead. I wonder if he's just saying, I'll just stay back here. I know I'm faster than them, but I don't want to mess their race up.
Maybe. I think he's just having a blast right there with David Smoker.
Yeah. And I believe Smoker is in the BT21. You'll have to look on the grid list, either Jonathan or Ben, to verify.
35.
Yeah,
He's
35.
in the BT 35.
71.
And that's the most recent of the cars out there of the Brabhams. Of course, again, I'm going to turn to Jonathan on this one. You know the Brabham from Sir Jack Brabham.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, I'm still reeling from that wonderful race we saw with Matthew Brabham and David, his father, as they raced Brabham.
Jeff Brabham.
Jeff
and Matt, yeah.
There's too many Brabhams. But wonderful. And also how David Brabham is now developing their new sports car. And, the Brabham legacy, what a way to keep it alive when so many other names have disappeared. But wow, Brabham may not be in Formula One anymore, but they're still going strong. And Matthew Brabham now currently back in single seats.
There was Oliver Ramleth there. I said I would mention Todd Gerstenberger. If Todd Gerstenberger was here, this is probably where he'd be getting passed by Eric Inkrotz. And now we're on board looking at the number 93 of Oliver Ramleth. We always try to have fun with our drivers when they don't come to events. That'll teach them.
That'll teach him.
He's racing the Titan MK6.
I believe both he and Strong have the Mark 6A, if I'm not mistaken. This again, I'm going to defer to you on this one, Ben. The gold medallion cars. Explain the difference between these are both Titan Mark 6As, but one is a gold medallion car.
Yeah, that means he's gone through the rigorous process of making sure that it is set up exactly as it was back in the day. So Oliver Ramleth is a gold medallion car. Sometimes it takes a lot more time and money and resources to get it back. Sometimes it's sourcing and finding the brake pads, making sure you're running the correct displacement, the right carburetors. Everything has to be as except some improvements in safety gear and things like that.
Well, he's certainly given Todd Strong a good run for his money there. Again, this is one of the earlier Formula Fords, and both of them are having a great time out there. I believe supported by Colchester Racing, if I remember correctly. But again, most of these Formula Fords, if not all, came over from England and came over here into the United States. And again, once you got in the car, you didn't want to get out because it was just so much fun to drive. And again, I always like to go to Road Atlanta or to Charlotte driving this particular car because at the time they didn't have the chicanes at Charlotte. It was just the oval, and you could draft by so many cars that you didn't have to have that fast a car. All these cars were, pretty much the same horsepower, but it was just the fun of drafting, of how to set up a pass and how to keep from someone passing you.
Well, look at that. There is Todd Strong. So proud of Todd Strong because he took the lead at turn 2 and hasn't given it back. No. He is a retired aeronautical engineer. And you'll see that little windscreen right there, right above the number 16. He was having trouble with that a couple months ago at Auto Club Speedway, and he's fixed it with the little gurney blade right above it. And those are the kind of things that really bothered him, being an aeronautical engineer, an inventor of the shake weight. But he's getting I believe he's getting the white flag here. So he's got one more lap for Todd Strong. That is unbelievable to keep the Formula Bs behind him in this Group 2 race.
Yeah, I think that would be considered an upset, don't you?
I think so, yeah.
I just think it's ironic that a man called Strong would invent the shake weight.
Yeah, unbelievable. You know, you can't write that stuff.
No, you can't.
Can't make that up.
But here again, you were talking about, you know, a little windscreen. You wouldn't think that it would be that much, but an engineer, a designer would know that that little windscreen, which is part of the aerodynamics, could maybe add 1/10 of a second or 2/10 of a second, which in Formula Ford was huge at the time.
Yeah, and then his competitor Todd Gerstenberger last weekend, same car, same windscreen, he wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother him at all. So it's just the different personalities that get into racing as well.
But yeah, this is a great battle between those two Titans. And again, you know, we're always used to seeing Travis Engen out front. It's unusual when he's not.
You can see the nose of that car bouncing. It's a beautiful car up close. And then when you see him come through this Franklin Road complex, watch as he sweeps through, because it starts to get pretty rough, a little bit bumpy there. See how the nose is kind of going up and down?
And that's fighting that understeer, oversteer. And these cars, they're not as quickly to get away from you as the Group 9 cars, the exclusive cars we saw earlier, but they can get away from you very quickly. Not the big, you know, wheel-to-wheel lock that you see in Trans Am cars or historic Trans Am cars. These are very, very small, concise movements.
Yeah. So just a few more turns here for Todd Strong from Southern California, working his hands right there.
Yeah.
Jonathan, take it away.
Yep, well, nicely done. Strong in the number 16, coming to the line now in that Titan Mark 6. And it's been a titanic effort. Takes the checkered flag, having taken the lead right there at the get-go at turn 2. So nicely done, Todd Strong. Another strong victory for the number 16. Travis Engen will come across the line in third, but it's Ramleth who will take, Oliver Ramleth, who will take second place in another Mark 6 Titan, but this one from 1970, so a 70 and 71, first and second, and then comes Ramleth and Engen. Travis Engen, pole position, that's Chevron B17B. Well done to them. And Smoker coming across the line in fourth, Perriman fifth, Smith, Hutchison, and Edmonds rounding out the top 8. Gann and Madrid. It was a good battle between those two, and it was won by the 66 of Gann, and Madrid taking 10th. So that concludes our Group 2 coverage. My thanks to Scott and, of course,